So good, so good, so good.
Everything you want for summer is at Nordstrom Rack stores now and up to 60% off. Stock up and save on the brands you love like Vince, Sam Edelman, Frame, and Free People. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV. Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free.
The truth is
It's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today I'm going to be talking about emotional hangovers. And I did not make this term up, so you can't thank me for it. But I do hope that I can explain it to you because it is something that resonates with many people. And it's something that happens after a fight with your spouse. But it could also be after any stressful experience, and we will get to that as soon as I tell you to subscribe. My most recent subscriber episode was on Stop Scrolling, You Are Wasting Your Life, and let's look at some other ones. I have, do you want privacy with your phone, or are you an addict? I have money addiction. I have sex at midlife, and those are just the most recent ones. So definitely subscribe to get 25% more episodes and content. All right, so an emotional hangover is when something really stressful happens. You release all this cortisol and all this adrenaline, and then you're just shot the next day. The same as if you had spent the whole night drinking and partying. You feel much the same. This is a huge phenomenon that people don't understand. They think that this is specifically with fighting. You know, I hate the idea of don't go to sleep angry. And I even have a podcast about it, and I even link to that. And it's just wrong. So what that means for most people is you stay up yelling and screaming and crying till like 3 a.m. You still have to get up at 6 with your kids or to go to work or whatever. And the rest of the day is destroyed. Then you're not good at work. You're snapping at your spouse. You're snapping at your children. You have to like drink a ton of coffee to get through the next day. Then that night sleep is shot too. Because remember, of course, God forbid you resolved anything, because you never do, right? And then the next night, in a worst case scenario, you end up with the same conflict. You're just like, it's part 2 of the drama. It's terrible. And you definitely should stop doing that. You should listen to my podcast about it. But the other thing that happens, besides just that you're exhausted, is this emotional hangover, because you're not just up late. Up late is bad enough. I talk about that in the scrolling podcast that I just talked about, the subscriber one. The people stay up late scrolling on their phone, but at least they're not releasing the level of cortisol to pick up a car off of your dying child that's trapped underneath like you do when you're in this kind of argument with your spouse. It's real. You release all of that cortisol, and then where does it go? It doesn't just disappear. It's going to make you feel the next day terrible, right? So it's going to make you feel irritable. It's going to make you feel like brain fog. You are just tapped out. Your body is not meant to be at that level of intensity, right? So when it is at that level of intensity, it needs the next day to just lay down. But guess what? You're a parent. Probably if you're listening to this, you're definitely in a relationship. You work. You have obligations. You can't just like tap out of the next day while you recover the way that you used to after a big night of drinking when you were in your 20s, right? You can't do that. So you owe it to yourself to try to understand what this is and how not to do it. Honestly, it's really simple. I mean, it's not simple to do, but it's really simple to explain. You have to stop fighting like animals. You have to stop the lunacy. So this is what couples counseling is very, very good at. It stops these insane fights where you're screaming and you're crying and you're name calling and you're throwing in the kitchen sink. You're learning to communicate in a calmer way. And this is not just to be nice to the other person, although that's great to not be an asshole to your partner, but it's also to be nice to yourself. Because when you are at this level of hysteria and drama and anger, right, literally dissociating with rage, that is not good for you. You're going to get a migraine if you're prone to migraines. Your back is going to seize up if you're prone to back problems. I just said, aren't going to sleep. The next day, it's going to feel like you were drunk all last night, even if you weren't. You are making yourself sick, literally making yourself sick. You can't focus. You can't concentrate. You know you're going to fuck up at work, and if you happen to be a person that is wired for bipolar disorder, which many people with treatment-resistant depression are, whether or not they've been diagnosed, you're going to get into some kind of manic or hypomanic phase because you've missed your sleep. So there are a lot of reasons for you not to do this. And if you learn in couples counseling how to speak more calmly and kindly and objectively to your spouse, you can really transform this. And I know that's not easy to do because you grew up hearing the same kind of craziness that you're doing right now, obviously, because otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. So the people who grow up with crazy fighting end up doing crazy fighting. And that's just how it is. And you don't want your kids to be doing crazy fighting. You could tell yourself they don't hear you, and it's not true. You heard your parents. And if you have the resources to be living in some kind of huge ass mansion, and then you're in the West Wing and they're in the East Wing, maybe, but they still see you hungover the next day, sniping at each other, sniping at them, acting like you're going to die because of this emotional hangover. And this is biological, and there's no way to get yourself to that level of distress and not feel it the next day. The more sensitive you are, the more you're going to feel it. There are people that can compartmentalize, just like there are people who do different with real hangovers, right? So there's people who can get up and go running the next day and go to work and be, semi-normal, even though they still have some version of an aftermath. But there's more sensitive people, or people with chronic pain or depression cannot. They're almost like they can't do anything the next day at all. And if they try, which of course you have to try, then they fail and they end up making mistakes and, alienating people because they act like they're not really there, or whatever the case may be. So you got to know yourself, right? And most people that are going to be listening to this are more psychologically minded than average. If you are somebody that finds it hard to recover from stress, you really can't fight in your marriage. You really have to, it's kind of like a prescription from a doctor. You can't fight. You have to go to couples therapy and figure out a way to speak in a calm, objective tone. I don't care if you don't feel like it's genuine. All this bullshit, express your feelings. You don't need to express your feeling if your feeling is, I fucking hate you, you piece of shit. That's not a feeling. That is a way that you learn to talk at home that you do not need to replicate ever again, right? And you're hurting yourself by getting to that level. Also crying, by the way. Like, there's always, if you feel like crying, cry. Crying hurts you. Crying gives you the emotional hangover. People are not supposed to cry that much. If you are crying more than like once a week, you got to figure it out. You got to figure out why you are so upset all of the time. I feel for you, right? You may be depressed. For real. And it is not normal to be crying constantly. It is not healthy to be crying constantly. You are going to give yourself a headache. You are going to feel this emotional hangover afterwards. You are not meant to be crying all the time. That isn't okay. That is not good. And if you saw a lot of crying growing up, then you think it's more normal than it is. Crying indicates a lot of distress. Why are you so distressed? If you cannot remain in this relationship without crying or screaming, it's not the relationship for you, because it's killing you and it's killing your health and it's giving you these emotional hangovers. How can you learn if I'm right? Because you're like, well, no, like I wouldn't really feel genuine. I wouldn't feel authentic. I wouldn't really feel like we resolved anything. You don't resolve anything, but I'll just let that one slide, right? If we don't stay up and talk, you talk. This is what everybody says. We stayed up talking. Two people look like they just got run over by a truck. They show up in my Zoom session. We were talking last night. You weren't talking. You were fighting. You were crying. And you were acting very dysregulated, and that's not talking. So talking ends, by the way, in like 15, 20, 30 minutes. That's talking. This thing where you're up for 2 hours, screaming, crying, yelling, that's not talking. That isn't talking. That's fighting. And so you can't stay up fighting and expect not to have any aftermath. And every time you have one of those, it erodes your closeness, by the way, in addition to your physical and mental health. You can only have so many of those before you hate each other. But anyway, point being, try and see. Try the experiment, even just to disprove it, because it will not disprove it. Go to sleep the next time. Say, I don't want to fight. I can't fight. I got to get up early tomorrow. Now, if somebody doesn't let you go to sleep, that's abusive, and that's emotionally abusive and physically abusive, and you got to get into therapy and figure out why you let somebody keep you awake. That's like what they do to torture people, right? So you can't do that. Now, I'm not talking about there are people who just go to sleep to escape a fight. Like they will literally just say, I have to go to sleep. It's like 7 p.m. and they'll just go into their room and maybe they'll sleep or maybe they'll scroll on their phone, or either way they're hiding out. Like that is also dysfunctional. But I'm talking about, it gets to a place where a person needs 8, 7 at least hours of sleep before work, and if you don't let that person go to sleep, then you are not being a good partner, and that goes into the realm of abusive. So if that's y'all's situation, then you have to get into therapy and figure out how there can be boundaries. Because imagine somebody keeping your kid up the night before they had their first interview out of college, and they're crazy. You would think they're crazy partners keeping them awake, ranting at them over something. Whoa, you would be so mad, right? So you know that that's not good. But anyway, you're going to say to your spouse, I realize that it's really dysfunctional what we do. It gives at least me an emotional hangover when we fight, and then the next day I really don't ever recover. So if we fight at night, I want us to try to just go to sleep. And maybe I'll sleep out somewhere, in a different room if I have to. Sometimes, honestly, that's just being dramatic. And you know that if it's you, But either way, if you say this in advance, I want us to go to sleep, it's more likely that it'll happen. 2 people have to commit to it, and then you'll see. Most of the time when you wake up the next day after you try this, after couples try it, when they've been in therapy, they come back in, they're like, yeah, we actually didn't have to fight the next day. The whole thing it lost its intensity, and now we could talk about it in session now, but we thought that we weren't going to be able to do it, but we did it. And that's the truth. And now think about it. So let's say you had this same kind of crazy ass fight, right? But your kid was having surgery the next day. Would you stay up late with this bullshit? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. What if you just lost your job? You had to figure out another job. What if you fucked something up so bad at work, right? And then you needed to deal with it that night. Would you still be doing this thing that you say you have to do? This huge, elaborate fight that you have to do in order to be authentic and genuine and get your feelings out and have this catharsis that, by the way, catharsis is shown with research not to help anything. You wouldn't. If anything happened, if you heard a thump and it was your kid falling down the stairs and you needed to take them to the hospital, do you think you'd still be fighting? You wouldn't. So obviously there is a way for you to redirect. You need to figure out what it is so that you can avoid the emotional hangover, because the sad truth is, it's the same as a real hangover. You can avoid a real hangover by not drinking, and you can avoid an emotional hangover by not fighting. So that's very simple to understand. It's not simple to execute. If you're addicted to marital drama, I have a post when you're addicted to marital drama that you should read on drpsychmom.com. But point is, emotional hangovers are real. The only way to get rid of them is to stop the drinking. The equivalent of the drinking is the fighting. All right, I hope this was very interesting to some of you. It's a good one to share with your partner, because there is nobody that gets caught. Oh, you know what? Don't share this with your partner if your partner is one of those that says, well, you're the one who just makes all the fights by yourself. I'm there screaming, but somehow you're the problem. If you're with that person, then just get into couples therapy, right? There's no dealing with that. But there is a level of people where they can say, we both tend to fight. If you're in one of those couples and you want to resolve to not fight, not have these emotional hangovers, this is a good one to listen together. But if you're in the situation where you're having fights for hours with somebody that insists that you're fighting by yourself, that's an avoidant attachment partner that usually suggests that, then don't even bother. Do not pass go. Just go directly into couples counseling. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this and that you learned a new term. All right. Bye-bye, guys.